Our lesson of Scripture this morning comes to us from the Gospel of John. This morning I'm going to be reading from chapter 14. I'm going to be reading verses 1 through 7, 15 through 17, and concluding with verse 27. Hear now the reading of God's holy word. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also. And you know the way to the place where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way? Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you know me, you will know my Father also. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. If you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, because he abides with you, and he will be in you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not let them be afraid. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. Some very familiar words about heaven that Jesus first spoke to his disciples after supper on the Thursday night that he was betrayed. You know, in the world we live in, it is harder and harder to get everyone to agree on anything. In fact, there's just about one thing left that it's safe to say that everybody does agree on, and that is that nobody wants to go to hell. Once you get past that, it's hard to find something. Before Christmas, I had a funeral over in Haywood County for an old friend. And I was reminded that several years ago, someone asked her whether or not she wanted to be cremated. And her answer was, I have worked too hard so that I won't burn in hell. Why would I want to burn here? And there's a lot of truth to that. Nobody wants to go. And you know, there is sometimes a little bit of ambivalence on our part about heaven. In the first place, you got to die to get there. In the second place, we really don't know that much about heaven. We got ideas, but we don't know. Heaven's about the only place left that you cannot Google and find out all sorts of information about. Jesus said, in my Father's house are many rooms. Can't go to Travelocity. Can't go to cheaprooms.com. You can't even go to Trivago, which is supposed to be the new site that has every room that ever was listed. Not the ones in heaven. There are a lot of unanswered questions and misconceptions about heaven that are out there. I've been watching on the History Channel. Every couple of years they have a special they run on all the presidents. And I enjoy finding out about all the presidents. I like Teddy Roosevelt was known to drink up to a gallon of coffee per day. I knew there was something I liked about him. William Henry Harrison was the first president to have electricity in the White House. And he and his wife were fascinated by it, but they were afraid to touch the switches. And they lived by candlelight and oil lamp the entire time they were in the White House. Never touched the switch. A lot of people have that kind of a relationship with heaven, thinking it's a great idea, but a certain wariness about it because there's a not knowing. In The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the book starts off, and Huck is living with Miss Watson, and she recognizes that Huck got a lot of rough places that need to be straightened out in his life, and she dedicates herself to the job. She's going to get the wildness out of him, and she's going to fill in with goodness, and her chief weapon is religion. She quotes Bible verses to him day and night. She threatens him with hell, and she coaxes him with heaven. All day, every day, same old thing. And Huck finally gets around to saying what he thinks about it. He says, Miss Watson went on and told me about that good place up there. She said all a body would have to do was go around all day long with a harp and sing forever and ever. So I didn't think much of it. I asked Miss Watson if she reckoned Tom Sawyer would get to heaven. She said probably not. I was glad about that because wherever I wound up, I wanted him and me to be together. Some of the pictures that get painted of heaven are really not that enticing. Singing all day, prayer and praise services all the time, cherubs flying around, sitting on clouds instead of in a recliner. No TV. What would you do today if you were in heaven? You couldn't watch a rerun of a NASCAR race while they're waiting for Daytona to start. You couldn't catch an ACC basketball game, and you certainly couldn't catch the Super Bowl tonight. What do you do? Is heaven like holding church forever and ever? That's the idea a lot of people think of it. You go to heaven and you just be in church all the time. My observation through the years is that in most churches, 1 hour a week works fine for most people. And in fact, I've noticed through the years that when it gets to be about 5 minutes till whatever time it's supposed to end, that there are many sly ways that folks have of kind of looking at their watch to sort of see where they are. So we're supposed to think about doing this 24 hours a day up there. Here's our problem. You and I are earthbound, but we're heaven-minded. But the vision we've created of heaven over these past 2,000 years leaves something to be desired. You know, chubby cherubs, fluffy clouds, endless church. Endless church, you know, that means sermons 2 and 3 hours. I can't think of a preacher I know besides Bo Paris who might even be up to that. We've had 2,000 years of inadequate ideas about heaven that have caused us to create incorrect pictures of what heaven is. And it's hard to get past those to the place where when we think of heaven, we can think of something that is beyond description. Paul, in his first letter to the church at Corinth, wrote these words, "No eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor mind conceived what God has prepared for them that love him." On the night before Jesus died, he prepared his disciples. How did he prepare his disciples? Did he say to them, they're going to kill me tomorrow, but don't worry about that, I'll be raised in glory on the third day, and we'll take care of business? No, he doesn't say that. Did he say, I'm going to be gone a long time, and I'll eventually return, and when I return, whenever that is, then we'll clean house? No, he didn't say that to them either. Did he gather them around him and say, don't worry about me leaving, you all are going to do great things down here? He didn't say that either. What he did was inspire them with heaven. But he didn't inspire them with fluffy clouds, all-day church, chubby-cheeked cherubs flying around. He inspired them with a very personal promise of what their inheritance was going to be because of their faith. Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And when I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. That's a passage that I read almost without fail at every funeral I perform. If those words were good enough for Jesus to say to his disciples when he was preparing them for his own death, I figure they're good enough for me to share with anybody. I always like to watch people respond at a service when I read those words. In my Father's house are many rooms. What does that remind us of? Of the promises of God, of our eternal destiny. When you say those words, there's a certain connectedness between those words and a grieving family that maybe on a Sunday morning we don't quite feel that level of connectedness. In my Father's house are many rooms. I go and prepare a place for you, and when I do that, I will come back and take you unto myself so that you may be where I am. It's a pretty amazing thing to speak those words. And when I read that passage at a service, I always focus on no one except the family. And I never read it too fast because there's a lot there to take in. And when there's a loved one lying there in the front of the church before them, it's really poignant. And it's the most wonderful thing in the world to watch somebody that's been pretty well consumed by grief. Hear those words and watch their face relax as they connect with eternal truth. Sometimes you can see someone reach and grab the hand next to them and give it a good squeeze. Sometimes when those words are read, someone will lean out just a little bit and catch the eye of someone down the pew. It's watching people in one of life's hard places get hold of hope in a moment that invites the opposite, hopelessness. Better than the best memories we can have of someone, better than the best stories that we can tell about someone, is the hope of an indescribable future for somebody that we love and care about, and especially that future, when the time comes, includes us. We're born with two impulses in life. There's an impulse to be an adventurer, and there's an impulse to be a homebody. Some of us are more one than the other. There are some people who are way more one than the other. But all of us have those two impulses in them. The sociologist described it as the pioneer and the settler. That's in both of us. The pioneer, that's the part of us that wants to go to new places and discover all sorts of things and experience everything that's out there that life has to offer. And then there's the settler in us that wants to find a place that we can call home, that we can settle down, and where we know we're safe and secure, where we know we're welcome. Heaven speaks to both of those impulses. Heaven is both the ultimate adventure, and it's also our ultimate home. It answers both of those longings. To get out and see everything there is in life, to experience as much of it as we can, and to find a place that's safe and secure that we can always return to. It isn't meant for us to be obsessed on a day-to-day basis with heaven. Because if we do that, we miss so much of life, what life has to offer. But the importance of keeping heaven in our mind is that life later is the flip side of life now. And for a Christian, that's the coin with two sides. Life later, life now. If life later is not in the picture, we don't think much of it, then life now is kind of one-dimensional. It's like going down to the Phoenix to the 3D movie and sitting through the 3D movie without putting your glasses on. You miss the depth of it. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would not be telling you that I am going to prepare a room for you. And when I've done that, I will return and will take you unto myself so that you can be where I am. Personal pronouns. Count them. If the ball game's no good tonight, just pull it out and count them. I, you, me, us, together. It's not a generic kind of thing. It's as personal as it gets. It's God's promise. It's Jesus' guarantee. The night that Jesus told his disciples, I'm sure they didn't take it in. But as time went on, they understood what that promise means. You and I don't always take it in. But as time goes on and we deal with all the things that we have to deal with in life, that promise means so very much to us. We're earthbound. We live here. This is our home for a while. But while we are earthbound and while we live here, we are heaven-minded, because that is our ultimate destination and our ultimate home. And there are a lot of places that you find yourself in life where having that in your back pocket is a great comfort and gives you the freedom to do more here. So what's a more appropriate way to end this service than for us to share together the meal that Jesus gave us, the meal that really, it's the meal of heaven that we serve here on earth until that day when we share it all together in the kingdom. So as Mike comes forward, I invite you to think about us here this morning. Think about all the people in this church who have shared this meal with us in times past. Think about the day when we will all share it together. Until that time, we offer it to you. A sampler of the kingdom and the things that will be